Sentai shows began with a single series in 1975 called Himitsu Sentai Go Ranger. It was produced by Toei Inc., and that studio would produce much more for the decades to come. Usually, 5 young adults would fight crime or a monster of the week in multicolored uniforms, and would be assigned a particular trait or job. These shows were made for children, but had no shortage of martial arts, swordplay, explosions, and in Super Sentai, giant robot battles. Arguably the most popular Sentai debuted in 1992 and was adapted from its Japanese Zio-Ryu Sentai Z-Ranger into Power Rangers using its 50 episodes worth of fight scenes and choreography, spliced in between American-acted dialogue scenes. After the Japanese episodes, Power Rangers would use different shows to pull footage from. As the seasons went on, the motif of the group's costumes would change for an in-story reason. Often, the new group would appear with a previous one for an important episode or season finale. This method of reusing footage, while economical, caused continuity issues within the world. By now, it's an in-joke for fans of the show that a dialogue scene would happen in an urban setting, and then the next scene, a Ranger fight sequence, would occur in the middle of the desert. Other problems were caused by having to explain the absence or addition of a character. Within the first 3 seasons, Power Rangers was beginning to run out of Z-Ranger footage, and they picked up on using Zord footage from another show, Gosei Sentai Dairanger. This created a Ranger that Americans hadn't written in yet, the White Ranger, so they said the Green Ranger's powers were used up, and because he was already a fan favorite, wrote him in as the White Ranger. This may seem like a haphazard way to write a show, and it's caused the program to falter. In fact, the show has faced 5 near cancellations. The first in Season 1 due to the fact that Saban, the man who had created Power Rangers, had run out of Japanese footage. Instead of canceling, he got money from Fox and hired the original studio to create more exclusively for the show. After Season 3, the ratings for the Sentai were abysmal, and the network told Saban it would be the end of the show. They prepared for the end, killing off the sage of the show, Zordon, in a 2-part episode. Ironically, the season ended with ratings as high as the first few. The Power Rangers were saved. The most memorable, iconic, and cheesy of all seasons were the first few, taking place in a fictional city called Angel Grove. 5, as the show would put it,
teenagers with attitude,
were brought to a sage named Zordon who recruited them to fight the evil Rita Repulsa, a criminal who was locked away in a prison on the moon, but let out by 2 unsuspecting astronauts. The team would often fight a crowd of goons or disposable foot soldiers, and when the villain would escalate the fight, the group would come together to form a Zord, or giant robot, to fight with. Each of the teens were given a device with which they could use to morph or transform into their superpowered counterpart. Often the writing was simple and reductive. Each character was typically one main personality trait and consistently wore clothing of the color of their ranger. Even the teens' parents wore the same color. They were Kim, the Pink Ranger. She was a former gymnast. Billy, the Blue Ranger, was also a gymnast. He was also the technical one of the group. Jason was the Red Ranger and a martial arts master. Tommy was a creation of Rita Repulsa as the Green Ranger. Zack, the Black Ranger, was a breakdancer. And Trini was the Yellow Ranger and a kung fu practitioner. When the show is brought up and talk of the casting is done, typically people realize the unfortunate casting of 2 of the Rangers. The show has been accused of casting based on race or gender. Zack, the Black Ranger, was black, and Trini, the Yellow Ranger, was Asian. All involved insist that it was simply a case of unfortunate coincidence. The case is only made more awkward by the fact that Zack was a breakdancer and Trini practiced kung fu. Not to mention the fact that Kim, the only other female of the group, was the Pink Ranger. All these miscastings were changed as quickly as they were realized, but not before becoming a point of parody for several comedic shows who pointed it out. Funnily enough, even after this change, the colors yellow and pink were dominantly reserved for the girls of the group. Between the fighting and their personal aspirations, the team had to deal with a duo of bullies known as Bulk and Skull. Ironically, their performances would outlive many iterations of Rangers. Their antics provided much of the show's comedy, providing a Laurel and Hardy style comedy routine with a skinny man and a fat man. These troublemakers went from paper-thin token bullies to beloved and productive members of the cast. They went out of their way to help the Rangers and fight crime. Even though they themselves had no powers, Bulk and Skull nearly had their own spin-off, but it was cancelled. Even without the show, they're the longest consecutively running characters in Power Rangers. The show's content makes it no wonder why it has endured, and its production makes it no wonder why it has nearly failed so many times. However precarious, Power Rangers and Sentai as a genre will entertain anyone who wants to see explosions, martial arts in colorful costumes, and giant monsters destroying cities.